Canada's men's soccer team falling 2-0 to Uruguay in another friendly tune-up for the World Cup. National soccer columnist Derek Van Diest is following the squad over in Slovakia and joins us now. Derek, a tough one for Canada, losing 2-0 here to Uruguay. What did you think of the result?
Well, it's interesting because this is probably the best team that they've played in about 12 years since they went to play in Argentina prior to the 2010 World Cup, where Argentina invited them as their kind of their getaway game. So this is a high-end, top-quality opponent, two-time World Cup champions, 15-time South American champions. And for the most part, Canada played pretty well. There was two moments where Argentina showed their class. They showed why they have world-class strikers. They showed why they are an upper echelon team. They buried both of their chances they got. Canada, I thought, did well to create chances. They did well possessing the ball. They did well passing it around. And it wasn't all defensive. They didn't sit back and defend. They wanted to take the game to Uruguay, and I thought they did that. The only issue is the difference up front. Canada could not finish off the chances that they had or the good looks that they had. And I think that's where the difference is in quality is between Canada and some of the upper echelon teams. Is the upper echelon teams, they got two chances, they buried them both. That's what happened with Uruguay. Canada had about 4 or 5 chances. They had 2 or 3 really good looks, and they couldn't score. But I think overall, Canada was really happy with its performance. They wanted to prove to the world that they could play with teams like this, and they did that. They played with a team like this. They were out there creating chances. They didn't sit back and defend for the whole game. And I think overall, they're very happy, and they have some confidence now going into Qatar.
So as you mentioned, in this lead up to the World Cup, they haven't played a ton of quality opponents. How could that possibly benefit them? Maybe not getting tested too much, and how could maybe that work against them, not having that high level opponent?
Well, that's the problem, I think, with Canada right now is that they're spending too much time playing CONCACAF opponents. Now, it's not their fault. That's just the way the schedule goes, and that's just the way things are when they're in that region. But they're not going to get better playing teams like Curacao. They're not going to get better playing teams like Panama. They're not going to get better playing teams like Honduras or El Salvador. They have to play some of these high-end opponents. And it doesn't have to be the best team in South America. It doesn't have to be a Brazil or Argentina. It could be a second-tier team in South America. It doesn't have to be the best team in Europe. It doesn't have to be in Italy or a Spain or in England. It could be a Denmark or a Switzerland or an Austria. It could be teams like that. But Canada has to raise the bar when it comes to playing opponents. Now, obviously, it's too late for this World Cup. They have one more game against Japan, which will actually be a very good opponent. That's another good opponent that they're going to face. Japan is a very good team. They're one of the best teams in Asia. So they're happy they're able to get that game with Japan. But moving forward to the next World Cup in 2026, Canada has to start playing these games 3 years before the World Cup, not 2 months before the World Cup. And John Herdman admitted to that as much. He said that, yes, we would like to have more of these games against these teams, and that's their only way they're going to get better.
So this was the final match for Canada before they picked their squad for Qatar. Are you expecting any major changes from now up until that point?
Well, I think the one big question mark going into Qatar for Canada is with the status of captain Atiba Hutchinson. He picked up an injury playing in Turkey. Atiba Hutchinson has been a stalwart on this team. He's played with this team for over 20 years. He's going. If he's healthy enough to go, he's going to go. But there's a couple other decisions. There's some young players that have looked really good and really promising. Tejan Buchanan is a player that they want to see. They want to make sure that he's healthy before he goes. So I think there's some tough decisions to make, whether John Herdman takes a player that has been around and has played for this team for 3 or 4 years, or he takes a younger player that he may have a bit more success in Qatar with. So those are tough decisions. You can only take 26 players to Qatar, and Canada used about 38 during their qualifying process, which is a long and arduous journey. So a lot of the players that played in the qualifying process or were called up to play for Canada during the qualifying process are not going to get to go to Qatar. And that's really, really tough for some players. Those are tough decisions to make, but I think those are decisions that John Herdman wants to make when he has that kind of squad and that quality on his team.
Well, we're just under 2 months away from kickoff in Qatar. Canada opened things up against Belgium on November the 23rd. As always, you can find Derek's soccer work over at Postmedia, and you can find him on Twitter at Derek Van Diest.